There we go. Hello, Chris Godinez, licensed professional counselor, the host of We Need to Talk on every Sunday at noon, and then I post it up to Facebook. This video is for educational and informational purposes only. The views and opinions stated herein are mine and mine alone, or Susanna's and Susanna's alone, or mine and Susanna's alone. They do not represent the ACA, the APA, or any other therapist for that matter. And I would love to thank my sponsor, BetterHelp, with a P, BetterHelp, BetterHelp.com. They're an online therapist. They help you find therapists online. They're awesome. So you just go on, fill out a few questions. They will set you up with a licensed professional therapist in your state, master's level or PhD level. If you don't like the therapist, you just go online and say, hey, don't like the therapist. Then you fill out some questions and they will set you up with somebody else in your state. If you are outside of the United States, BetterHelp.com/Chris Godinez is the place to go, because then you can get into an American therapist pretty quickly. Because I'm hearing from people in the UK and other places that they're having a hard time getting therapy. So BetterHelp.com/Chris Godinez. That is your go-to place for online therapy. Boom, shakalaka, done. Susanna,
I'm back.
You're back. How are you?
I'm good. I'm so excited to be here.
Me too. So today, let me get a few things out of the way. So Susanna and I were talking about maybe doing a seminar, but with the whole Delta virus outbreak, we're probably going to put that on hold until we see how things kind of play out. There is a very good possibility that the other meet and greets will also be put on. You know what? If COVID was a person, I would throat punch it. I really seriously would. So we're probably going to put the other tour dates on hold as well. This is Susanna's book, You're Still That Girl. It is available on her website, SusannaQuintana.com. Go there. This is great. Read this book. And you've got another book coming out.
I do.
So
I do.
How soon?
It'll not too soon.
Not too soon.
We have time.
Okay. These are my two books. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him cha-cha. And What's Wrong with Your Dad, available on Amazon, Kindle, Audible, etc., etc., etc. The newest book is being recorded soon, and that is about becoming a therapist. So if you're interested in becoming a therapist, it's all on what to expect if you decide to go into a helping profession. So that's going to be coming out probably November, December is my guess. And I'm recording it this coming month or two. So it's all edited and ready to go. All right. Got all of those out of the way. Yay. So today we are talking about, are you ready to date? And it's so funny because Susanna just did an article on Medium.
Yes.
Medium about, are you ready to date? So take it away, Susanna. how do we know we're ready to date?
Yes.
How do we know?
Well, I love being here, first of all, and being the, the trial run. I like to be the experimenter with these things so I can share my experiences with you. But yes, I did write an article on Medium about how to protect yourself in the dating world, especially from narcissists, because as we were talking about, and as I learned, no matter how, I always prided myself on being able to spot a narcissist coming from a mile away. But the fact is that you cannot completely avoid narcissists.
Yes.
Because no matter where you are, no matter how much your eyes are open, like me, no matter how much experience or research that you've done, when narcissists are masters in the beginning, that's the key. They are masters in the beginning of putting on that mask and presenting this charade, this person that they think you want, right?
Right.
So the key is that you can't avoid them. But one thing about narcissists that is actually awesome is that they can't keep up the charade for very long. The mask actually slips very, very quickly. But there are things that if you're not careful, you could get yourself into some trouble. Right. Like I did many years ago when I thought I was ready to date. I thought, okay, I'll go put my toe in the dating waters, There were all sorts of things that went wrong in that scenario mainly because I wasn't ready. And the reason that I wasn't ready is because I didn't know myself. I thought I had boundaries, but even the boundaries I had, I didn't know to enforce them. And a big one was when somebody showed me who they were, and people always, especially narcissists, they will show you who they are. I didn't believe them, right? That's how I got into decades of abusive marriages for that reason.
Right, exactly. And I think let's go over the right reasons and the wrong reasons to date. Let's start with the wrong reasons to date. So you talked about that before the show started. So
yes. So one of the biggest wrong reasons to date is that you are empty of something. You are looking for something to have somebody else fill in you, right? So you are desperate, whether you're desperate for attention, you're desperate for validation, you're desperate to be seen, you're desperate for affection, you're desperate for passion, like the list goes on, right? This is really dangerous. This is like going to the grocery store on an empty stomach.
Don't do that.
Don't do that.
I bought aisle 5 one time.
I know. You are going to buy all sorts of stuff that you don't need when you are in a place of desperation. So that is the main one is as far as, if you are thinking to yourself or wondering, am I ready to date? Well, here's the thing. When we're going through the healing process, this is basically an excavation of our self, right? Because narcissists they attempt to make us disappear. They also tell us who we are, and we believe them. So they're in the healing process. This is sort of an unraveling, right? Of doing that digging and getting down to our core self and figuring out who we are. If we don't know who we are, then going into the dating world is really risky, because if we don't know who we are, how are we going to spot somebody else before they have the chance to take advantage of us, use us, abuse us?
Exactly. So this is why I keep telling you guys, get the Self-Esteem Workbook by Glenn Schiraldi, work it, do the mirror work daily. So you have a really strong base of who you are. And then that way, when some jackwagon, I hate not being able to swear, when some jackwagon comes along and really does the number on you, you're able to go, this is opposite of my self-worth. This is opposite of my self-esteem. The other book you need to get is The Disease to Please by Harriet Breaker, because we tend to be people pleasers. And so when they do the guilt trips or the whatever, we tend to fall for that and we try to please them. And that is dangerous. Danger. I feel like Danger Will Robinson. Danger, just dated myself. So yeah, it's the people pleasing, it's the self-esteem. So if you do not know who you are, if you do not have a rock solid sense of self-esteem, if you don't wake up in the morning and go, damn, I like myself, or you look in the mirror and are able to listen to nice things about yourself, so that's your automatic thought instead of the, oh, look at this wrinkle and this roll and this, if you're not able to have a good relationship with yourself, you are not going to be able to have a good relationship with anybody else, basically. And I've seen pop psychology on there going, no, you can date other people if you don't have, yeah, I'm sorry. Do you have a master's degree? Have you written some books on this? Do you answer questions all the damn time? No, shut the hell up and sit the hell down. So, I'm sorry. That really pisses me off when people who don't know what they're talking about start giving bad advice. You have to be rock solid in who you are, not be codependent, to be able to say no to these people, because they get crazy when they are confronted with boundaries. So, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So, okay. So if you are not having good self-esteem, if you are still people pleasing, not a good idea to date. If you are trying to fill a hole, if you think I'm empty, I'm incomplete, I need somebody to fill this hole, it will never work. Ever. Not on this planet, not on any other planet. Sorry. It won't work.
Yes, because that's like giving somebody the pen to write your story. And then you're reading the story and you're believing what this other person, even well-meaning people.
Right.
It doesn't matter. The fact is that you're giving somebody else the power to write your narrative, and then you're believing it because you don't know who you are.
The other danger I see is people do the comparison thing. So all my peers are dating, all my peers are married, all my peers have got kids and I don't. So I need to get into a relationship to get married and have kids, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's a terrible reason to start dating. It seriously is. So are there any other wrong reasons to date that I haven't covered that we need to make sure and hit?
Yes.
Okay.
When you don't know going into something, this goes into the boundaries of what you will and will not put up with, right? So
Absolutely.
if you're not clear on, let's say, and this could be big things like somebody lies to you, or you find out that they lied to you, or even little things, like somebody is the opposite political party, right? Knowing what you will and will not put up with, so that when the time comes, so these are your boundaries, when the time comes, if the time were to come where you have this boundary and somebody tries to cross it, and only toxic, unhealthy, narcissistic, abusive people will try to cross your boundaries.
Exactly.
Healthy people will not.
Exactly. That's why I say do a list of deal breakers. Disrespect, that's a deal breaker. Name calling, that's a deal breaker. Guilt, fear,
Gaslighting,
obligation, gaslighting, manipulation, rewriting history, just all of the things that narcissists do. And here's the other thing. When you are dating, you have the right to say no to somebody that is not going to be compatible to you. So say you've got a certain set of morals and they don't. And you say, in your little online blurb, which we'll talk about online in just a second. But you say in your little online blurb, hey, these are my morals and this is what I will put up with and this is what I won't put up with. And then they come in and make you wrong for that. Oh, Houston, we have a problem. You need to kick that person to the curb because they need to respect your moral boundaries, period. Politically, emotionally, religiously, whatever. If they're going to come in and try to make you wrong for having a moral boundary, then I would be using finger signals right here, but you can, make them pound sand, tell them to pound sand, kick them to the curb. You don't need them. And you also don't need to argue with them because a lot of times there's so many online trolls, dear Lord, they will go on to web dating sites and just start arguing with people because they're clearly so emotionally stunted. They don't know how to react to people. So they'll go online and start arguing about over your morals or your boundary or what you want or what you don't want. So that's why a list of deal breakers is absolutely a must. And the second they cross any one of them, bye-bye, have a nice life, go pound sand, bye-bye. See where I'm going with that?
Yeah. And also to think of it in a way of, and this, because everything I say is because I used to do this or think like this, because I didn't want to put up boundaries because I didn't want to, if there was a guy I liked or whatever, I didn't want to push them away or I didn't want to offend somebody because I was a people pleaser, right? So I was afraid to put up a boundary and say, hey, I'm not going to put up with this. But what I didn't know is that there are two separate types of people here on the other side of that when you put up a boundary. So it's super easy to distinguish right away from the unhealthy people who will react, will try to cross your boundaries, and the healthy people where, and I've come across, healthy men too, where I put up a boundary, let's say, hey, this is going a little too fast for me. And they're like, okay, sure, I respect that, right?
Yep.
Big difference.
So do we want to talk about what happened with you out in the... Okay, before we dive into that, just really quickly, I don't like online dating sites. I never have, I never will. So they're filled with predators. I mean, just top to bottom, filled with predators. Are there a few good guys on there or good girls? I'm sure there are, but the majority of them are personality disordered. Why? Because there's no intimacy when you're doing that back and forth on the typing chat kind of thing. And it isn't until you meet them in person when you really get a taste of who they really are, which is why I think it makes it a little more dangerous. I don't like it. I like meeting people that have, been, so John and I met because Brad, our friend, mutual friend, introduced us and he kept pushing us together and that's how we got together. So, this is back in college. So I don't particularly care for online dating sites, but I also recognize that the world has changed a great deal and that's probably the easiest way to meet people. However, you must be cautious. That's all I'm going to say. Cautious. All right. Take it away, Suzanne.
And also, I just want to shout out to Annette Purdy because she posted something about, when because her and I were kind of in the same boat where we're like, okay, universe, you know what? This is late 2019, very early 2020. I think we're ready to go back into the dating world. And the universe is like, really?
Well, here's a national pandemic. Yeah, or an international pandemic.
Right.
You're going to be isolated for 2 years.
Right.
Yeah, it's true.
It's tough.
Yeah,
it's tough. So, okay. So I love sharing my own experience so y'all can learn from me. So don't do the things in the past. That's why I'm here. Okay. So I just wanted to share my experience with my 5-date dude, as I call him. So I had, started, I thought, okay, I'm ready to just ease into dating. The reason I feel like I wanted to ease in is because I had no need to meet somebody. I thought, oh, that would be, I guess, nice, maybe if it happened. But if it didn't happen, okay, that's cool, because my life is great with or without. So it's not like I'm dependent on meeting anybody, because I'm super happy being single. I love it, actually. So anyway, so there's no desperation there when I decided to go in, but I thought, you know what, I'm curious, I'll check it out. Then, because I write on this subject a lot too, I thought, you know what, I'm also going to put on my researcher hat, and I'm going to use my experience to, to write about it and to talk about it. And so, venturing into the online dating world, I tried that several years ago, many years ago, when I first escaped the darkness, but I was totally not ready. And I'll tell you why I stopped. And the one man who, very, very nice man, this is just a couple years out of when I escaped the darkness. And we just went for a lunch. And I remember he asked me, and again, this was probably six years ago or so. And I remember the man asked me, he said, so what are you looking for in a man? And without hesitation, I just blurted out the first thing that I was thinking. And I said, I just want a man who doesn't want to hurt me on purpose. And the look on his face was like compassion, shock, empathy, a little confusion, like, that's it? That's it?
Right.
You just want a guy who doesn't want to hurt you? Like, you have no other requirements? That's when I realized, oh yeah, I'm not ready. I need to, no. I need to stop this. So when I was ready, I thought, yeah, I'm going to give this a shot. So I went into it also. So this was a fantastic, both learning lesson, but also a great validation for me, because I had gone into it thinking I can avoid narcissists because I can see them, I can spot them, right? So this was a great validation for me, because even though I couldn't spot this one particular guy on the first date, on the second date, not until the 5th date, it was great validation because of all the things that, like we were saying about when you're ready to date, right? Like boundaries and not being desperate, believing people who they are. This is all what saved me, because here's the key. When I totally get that fear of, oh my God, what if I fall in love with another narcissist? If you do these things that I did, you won't be emotionally invested by the time their mask slips, because narcissists cannot keep up that charade for very long. If any of you have, been in it with a narcissist and had looked back and you saw all those red flags, right? They were right at the beginning, weren't they? We ignored them, but they were right at the beginning. They didn't take a year. They didn't take even 6 months. So 5-date dude, first date was great. Second date, third date, fourth date was great. They were very casual because it was pandemic. It was summer last year. And so, we did things like take a walk around the park or by the library or at the riparian preserve. Then on the fourth date, we went out to dinner. That was nice. So we spent about 2 hours each time with each other,
And this was over a period of 2 months.
About 2 months.
Yeah.
And we had, before we met in person, we had been texting and also talked on the phone. He was, I'm not even going to use the word charming, because I have radar for charming, like charming men. Right?
Oh yeah.
He was not that.
Yeah.
He was very, he was personable. He was engaging. He was super smart. We had a lot of things in common. We enjoyed each other's company, right? Like, there were no red flags, because I am I'm just like
high alert.
I am. I'm on super alert. So, but because I was taking these things slow, right? And everything was kind of going slow. So on the 5th date, he had asked if we could, take it to another level. And I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure if I wanted to or didn't want to. So I thought,
Right.
okay. And I told him my apprehensions, and he's like, you're safe with me. So we found a spot. And again, this is after, this is our 5th date. This is after about 2 months, talking on the phone a lot and getting to know each other. So on the 5th date, there, I'll spare you the details because it was kind of scary. But we found ourselves, and I willingly wanted to explore this in a place where we were private. We were alone together. That's when things took a turn very, very quickly, where he was pushing, and all of a sudden, I had no idea this was going to happen because, like I said, and I had voiced this to him beforehand, right? I said, hey, I'm not sure.
Right.
And he's like, no problem. You say the word, like, right. Yeah, no, that didn't happen. So as soon as I immediately said to him, no, I can't do this, I froze. I had a lot of just stuff come up, and I thought, okay, I'm just going to tell him because this is what, he had made it that I could share this with him. As soon as I put up the boundary, which the boundary was, I don't want to go any further, right? As soon as I did that, he switched. His face changed. His whole demeanor changed. The tone of his voice changed. And I was in a bit of a state of shock, mainly, and also because I'm a woman with a man in a secluded place. My radar was going off like, okay, my intuition was like, we need to be very careful here, how we need to tread lightly, because I was not expecting him to change.
Right.
So I didn't say anything. And for the next 10 minutes, just heard him. He started making fun of me, not just saying things to make fun of me, but like imitating me. And I was speechless, to be totally honest, because also I was like, I'm carrying out scenarios in my head, right? Like, oh my God, is this how women like get killed and dumped in a dumpster, right? Like I was freaking out.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
And again, there was nothing at all that would have shown me this on our first 4 days together. Not even before we were secluded on the 5th date. We had gone out to dinner. Everything was great. So what I did in that situation is that my instinct kicked in, and I thought, I need to tell this man whatever he needs to hear so that I can remove myself from the situation and get in my car and go home. And meanwhile, he's just going on and on and on, making fun of me and insulting me and all sorts of stuff. And a lot of it I just blocked out because I was like, I need to figure out a way to get out. So I did end up, I grabbed my purse. I started walking toward my car. He stood in front of my car door, so I couldn't get in, and continued to lecture me.
Scotty. I'm sorry, my dog just wandered in. Hi, sweetie.
So he's standing in front of my escape.
Go lay down.
My escape route. Hi, baby.
Chon, your dog.
Oh,
Scotty, come on. Go. There you go. Sorry.
Cute. So he's standing in front of my way of escape. And I'm just standing there, like letting him berate me and insult me because of course, any woman out there knows this. In order to keep ourselves safe, what I wanted to say is just go off on him, right? But there was no way because I didn't know how if he was going to react to that, I had no idea what he was going to do if I dared fight back or say something back.
Right.
So I told him what he wanted to hear. I kept saying, you know what? It's not you at all. It's totally me. It's all my fault. I'm the problem, right? Like just whatever I needed to say to get him to move away from that door.
Yeah.
So while I'm standing there, my phone rings because it's probably like around 11 o'clock at this point. And my son, because I never go out. So my son calls to see where I am and what I'm doing. So it's a quick phone call. I'm like, hey babe, I'm on my way home. Right. Hang up. Then this guy starts making fun of my son and me being a mother of what kind of, I thought you said your son was 17. Like why would he be calling to check up on you? Like how immature is he? So then my inner voice is like, now the mama bear is like,
Oh, hell no.
Oh, but I couldn't because he's standing in front of my door. And I'm thinking, so anyway, it just kept, placating him and telling him what he wanted to hear. He moves. I get into my car. I drive home. By the way, I have never been so happy to see my dogs and go to bed by myself in my own bed.
I can imagine.
And I thought, you know what? Well, I'll never hear from him again. I woke up to a barrage of texts that were just continuation of the night before. He took everything I had shared with him
and used it against you.
And used it against me for the past whole 5 weeks. And I hadn't shared anything like super personal, right? Like just basic stuff. He turned it all against me in this, just like this huge barrage of texts that I received. And I thought, okay, what am I going to do here? Here's what I'm going to do. I just texted back and I said, I have nothing else to say. I wish you well. Block, Facebook block, everywhere block. Right?
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I was not emotionally invested in this guy. So this did not hurt at all to let him go. Right? In the past, I would have been in a whole lot of trouble for the reasons of I had no boundaries. So when he decided to start making fun of me, first of all, I wouldn't have put up a boundary to stop him, first of all.
Right.
I would have done what he wanted me to do.
Right.
That's the big one.
Right.
In the past, because he was really good looking, I would not have believed him when he showed me who he was. I would have made excuses for him. Like, well, the first 4 dates, he was great. He was lovely and nice. And so maybe he was having a bad night, right? I wouldn't have believed him. I also would have believed him what he was telling me about myself because I didn't know who I was all those years ago, right? I would have given this man, all those years ago, I would have given this man, that's how I ended up in an abusive marriage.
Right.
Because I would have given this man another date, another chance, because I didn't know who I was. I didn't have those boundaries. I had no self-worth. My self-worth was in the toilet. And I became emotionally invested in somebody way too early. So somebody, I can't remember who somebody made a comment on one of my posts, which was excellent. I'm sorry, I can't remember who it was, but saying that you want to think of dating as, there's this trial period, right? Where you don't give your heart, you don't give your trust, you don't give anything of yourself in this trial period, right? Because that's where you run the risk, like I would have all those years ago with this guy. But because I knew that and I gave this guy the trial period, and wouldn't you know it, just like any narcissist, as soon as you put up a boundary, they show you who you are.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I think in the trial period too, this is why you have to know yourself, because what we tend to do is if somebody starts making fun of us or rejecting us, we try to prove them wrong.
Yeah.
And so I'll show you, you're wrong. I am worthy, and there's this really bad dynamic that happens of this fear of being alone. And so it's almost as if that inner child is going, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, I would rather be with this jerk than by myself. And that's another clue. You're not ready to date. So Susanna did absolutely the right thing to stay safe. So in that case, it was a bit of fawning in order to give in order to get the hell out. Yeah. So that she didn't get hurt. And that's the scary thing, because it's like you think after, 2 months of dating and maybe on the 5th date, maybe it's going to be okay. You're out of the woods, but no. How you're going to know you're out of the woods is when you draw a boundary and they respect it. That's how you're going to know you're out of the woods, in consistency. Does that make sense? So yeah, that's just, wow.
I know.
Wow. I'm so sorry. That's
it was a really, just aside from the part of this that was very scary.
Yeah.
Like being, in a place where this had nothing to do with anything except for, oh my gosh, am I in danger here? Am I in physical danger?
Right.
but overall, it was such, like I said before, just such a validation of knowing exactly who I am and believing people. As soon as he turned, I was like, oh, there you are. I see you. Okay, I see you, little narcissist there. I see you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the important thing, is that we have a tendency to ignore the red flags, which is never a good thing, especially if we haven't worked on ourselves. That's why I keep saying, when you leave an abusive relationship, stay single for at least minimum of a year, so that you can get through all of the firsts, right? And you're working on yourself, and you're working on your self-esteem, and you're working on your list of deal breakers, and you're working on you, basically, and you know who you are. When I was a teenager, I had a very similar situation happen. I went out on a date because I was in a sorority and I got set up. Oh my God, don't ever do that. So I got set up, and this guy was just cuckoo for freaking Cocoa Puffs. I was so mad at my big sister in the sorority for doing this to me. And so I drove, thank God. He was stoned, high, whatever, off of his hind end. We come back to at the end of the date, I drop him off at his house, and he tells me he's going to kill himself if I don't have sex with him. And so I said, wow, sucks to be you. Here's the name of the crisis. Even then, even at age 18, I was doing here's the crisis, and no, I'm not going to have sex with you because this is a big problem, and sex is not going to fix it. And no, I'm not going to sleep with you. And then I ended up counseling him for like 2 hours, but it was scary because I didn't know what he could do. Here we were trapped in my car. He wouldn't get out. He finally did, when I just kept saying no over and over and over again. And I just, I was kind of like preparing myself, like, if I have to fight this guy off, I will. So yeah. So it's there. Cuckoos are out there. They're just out there, and you got to have strong boundaries. And if you don't, I would have ended up, giving in and having sex with him, which is absolutely not what I wanted to do. You would have done the same thing back in the day, so it's like, it's really important. Work on your self-esteem, work on your boundaries, know your limits, trust your instinct. And I think that's the hardest thing for any of us to start doing, is to learn how to listen to our gut, not our head, not our heart, our gut. And that year that you're recovering, that first year, you're also learning how to trust your own instincts. And that is going to save you, seriously. So, okay. All right. Let me get to the question.
And I just want to add something about red flags here.
Yeah.
What is so great this was another validation that was pointed out after my experience, is that we think that red flags happen on the first, like right away, where this I've always said, I don't have red flags anymore. I have deal breakers. So that's exactly what happened. Whereas in the past, on this fifth date, that would have been a red flag, right? If I would have continued.
Right.
But instead, deal breaker.
Deal breaker. Absolutely. And Heather, thank you. Scotty is getting older. He's 15 and a half now, and he's kind of sort of getting senile. He's got cancer. We don't know how much longer he's going to be around, but thank you. Thank you. He's our baby. Okay, let's start hitting the questions. Could you please talk about how to deal with uncertainty about flying monkeys? Will they grow a brain, i.e. catch a clue or not? Wanting to hope too much, feeling emotional. You want to take that one?
Flying monkeys, as far as, oh gosh, I only have just a really quick answer.
Okay.
All the flying monkeys, I don't, this is my space, and they're not invited in.
Exactly. So here's the deal. People who side with the abuser are one of two types. And Sherry, thank you so much. I appreciate that. People who side with the abuser are one of two types. So they're either just freaking ignorant. They don't understand. And a lot of people who have not been in an abusive relationship just don't get it, and they need to be educated on it. And once they're educated, then they go, oh, and then they start, understanding what the heck's going on. That's one type. They're just ignorant, and you can educate them if they can be educated. The other type are minor narcissists themselves. They enjoy the drama. They enjoy the upset. They enjoy poking the bear. They enjoy watching you suffer. So if you, after you've educated them and they're still running back to the abuser, they're still doing that flying monkey stuff, kick them to the curb, tell them to pound sand, go no contact. That brings me to another thing I want to talk about that I forgot to talk about. Ghosting. Okay. So ghosting, I got the question of what is ghosting and how is that different from no contact? So in the dating world, apparently, because I'm not in the dating world, but in the dating world online, manners have just gone the way of the, woolly mammoth. It really, I just don't even, Emily Post would be spinning in her grave right now. Of course, if she ever heard me talk outside of this, she'd be spinning in her grave. But so the point being is that manners have gone the way of the woolly mammoth. So in the old days, when people somewhat sort of maybe possibly had manners, and you were dating somebody and it didn't work out, you would just say, not feeling it, thanks so much. I wish you the best of luck. Goodbye, and then you'd go do your thing and they'd go do their thing. In today's dating world, ghosting is where you've gone on some dates, things seemingly went okay. You liked the person, you enjoyed them, you would like to keep seeing them again. You send them a text inviting them to coffee or whatever, and they just poof, disappear. And you don't hear from them ever. Or maybe months later you do. Who knows? So that's called ghosting. And it's just freaking rude. Don't do it. I think that's just so rude. So the difference between that and no contact. So no contact is you've been in a relationship with somebody, parents, family, friends, whatever. And they've done things to harm and hurt you, and you've made them aware of that, and they continue to do it. And you finally go, you know what, for the safety and well-being of myself and my immediate people around me, I am going no contact. And no contact means absolutely no contact ever again, period. It drives me crazy when people are like, oh yeah, I went no contact for 3 months and then I contacted them again. Well, that's not no contact. No contact is we're done. Stick a fork in it. We're done. Let me give you an example. I had a friend that just went off the deep end, started raging and screaming and doing all sorts of weird things that were not like them. I gave them a warning. Look, you need to go to therapy. Something is wrong. You need to go to therapy. Well, then I got a nasty gram back. Screw you. I'm not going to therapy. You're the problem, blah, 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 blah. That's no contact. And I have never spoken to them again. Do you understand where I'm going? So that's the difference between ghosting and no contact. Ghosting happens when you don't really know the person. You've known them for a while. You've been dating and suddenly, poof, they disappear. No contact is when you've been in a friendship or a relationship with the person for a while and they start acting toxic. You give them a warning and they continue to do it. And then you go, you know what? For my safety and comfort, bye-bye. Have a nice life. Good luck. Whatever. Bye. Does that make sense? So that's the difference. No contact is not stonewalling also. And I think that's something else to be very clear about. Stonewalling is used by an abuser to force the target of abuse back in line. So they will give the cold shoulder. They will stop talking to them. It's temporary. So remember, they love to do the intermittent positive rewards. So as soon as they start talking to you again, you're like, oh my God, the sun is shining. Everything's great. Oh, they're talking to me. Oh, this is good. Do you see where I'm going with that? So stonewalling is an abuse technique. No contact is you're toxic. I dig you're toxic. You're not allowed in my life. Bye now. So that's the difference.
And also with the silent treatment is different than no contact.
Yes.
Where a narcissist will give you the silent treatment where they are purposely ignoring you to make you feel something, whether it's, to devalue you or whatever it is. There is a negative abusive purpose for the silent treatment.
Yes.
If you are going no contact with a narcissist, you're not giving them the silent treatment. You're going no contact to protect yourself from their abuse.
Bingo. Yeah, absolutely. So that's the difference. And I hope that made that clear because a lot of people had actually asked me the difference between ghosting, no contact, silent treatment, stonewalling. So yeah. Okay. So we answered the question about flying monkeys. Why are online dating sites so bad? Why do abusers use them? Do you have any opinions on this?
Not why, but I will tell you that my experience, they're crazy. I mean, they're crazy. Like I would say 90% of the men that I see, and again, I'm only seeing the men. I don't know what the women are doing with their stuff. But I would say 90%, which is a huge chunk. They're, wow, I don't even have words. They are, from the pictures they post, I mean, just FYI, guys, just don't in the bathroom mirror with your shirt off. Like, no, don't stop doing that. Or the fact that they will, like, I have deal breakers on my profile. For example, if somebody's a political opposite, that's not a match for me. No judgment, just that's what it is, right? And I have had, I don't even know how many men send me messages, private messages, or like comment on my profile or whatever to berate me for having that boundary, for having that, for knowing what I want and what I don't want. But yeah, it's scary, crazy.
So I think the reason why abusers use them is it's easy. It's like shooting fish in a barrel. Oh, wow. That was a country reference, wasn't it? So seriously, it's like shooting fish in a barrel. You've got all of these people on there, a lot of them desperate, not all of them, but a lot of them very desperate to hook up immediately with somebody. Somebody, please love me, right? And so it's like a buffet. God, I miss buffets. I wish those would come back. Again, throat punching COVID. Yeah. So it's like a buffet for them, because if they, if somebody rejects them, there's somebody else on there that's going to take them up on it because, again, of the desperation level. If you don't love yourself, if you don't have boundaries, if you're not picky, oh, that's the other thing I've heard abusers. Well, you're so picky. Like, that's a wrong thing.
Right.
And I'm sitting here going, damn freaking straight, I'm picky.
Yeah.
Life is too short to not be picky. The quote by Robin Williams, why did you block me? Well, we get to choose who we have in our weird little worlds. So yeah, so they go online because it's easy pickings. It's absolutely easy pickings. There's so many people on there that are desperate to be loved that'll just put up with it and take it. Plus the fact online is easy for trolls, which are narcissists, because trolls are narcissists. It's easy for trolls. It's easy for narcissists, abusers, because there's no real interaction. There's no intimacy, right? So when you're face to face with somebody, yeah, they can fake it for 5 dates. Yeah, they can fake it for 2 months. But when you put up a boundary, you get to watch the facial expressions. You get to watch the body language. That's intimacy. Does that make sense? So 90% of our communication is not verbal. It is visual. We are watching for the micro expressions. We are watching the body languages. That's why I find forensic psychology so fascinating. I've been binge watching Deadly Women. Have you seen that?
No.
Oh my God. Crazy people. Anyway, but it's great because there's a forensic psychologist on there, and it's so fun for me to be like, oh, I bet they're this. And then she says it and I'm like, yes. So yeah, it's there. You watch the micro expressions, you watch the body language, you watch how they interact, how they talk, how they respond, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, and I just want to be very clear. It's not just men online that are cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. It's not. The women predators go on there as well. And I'll share something that's going to be in the book that's coming out pretty soon. There was, in the very beginning of my career, when I was doing my practicum, I had a client that was catfishing themselves. So they were massively overweight, morbidly obese. They would go onto the dating sites. They would post a picture of themselves, right? Normal person, or them as who they are, morbidly obese, et cetera, same bio. Then they'd go on and find a stock photo and post the same bio. And then when the stock photo started getting hits, they would become incensed and then set up a date and then meet the guy or girl or whatever, and then come unglued on them that they didn't love the real them, which I could not convince them that was a dangerous thing to do because, God forbid, what if you got somebody who was really unstable and psychotic? Hello. Do you see where I'm going? Not that person was stable, but the point I'm trying to make is that things like that, catfishing, happens all the time. And other, scams, oh, I would love to meet you, but if you want me to fly out, you have to send me money. Don't fall for any of that crap, because there's a whole bunch of stuff like that online. Anything else?
Yeah, I would say, as far like, if you're doing the online dating, is to take it as slow as humanly possible, because you will weed out the people who are, you know, the pushers are the abusive ones, are the narcissists, right? They're like, no, I got to get you. I got to get you. I got to love bomb you. I got to get you hooked fast, right? We got to move this sucker along. And there, you know, I've had also dates where in the other 10%, that there are some good guys out there. They just didn't have other ways to, you know, to meet anybody because of their work or pandemic, of course. But again, the same rules held for me. You know, there was one date I went on with a man who was nice, nothing wrong with him. Except for the fact that the entire dinner he talked about himself, and I would have to be like, can I say something? Yeah, so it's just a matter of, you know, going into it with your eyes wide open, understanding that there are people out there who, if you open the door to them, they will come in with terrible reasons and bad motives. To, you know, it's not a matter of being cynical. It's a matter of being realistic. You have to keep yourself safe.
Agreed. I want to stay no contact, but I start feeling guilty. Can I use my anger to keep me from contacting them? Yeah, absolutely. It's called righteous anger. This is why you need to write out every rotten thing they ever did to you and keep it somewhere where you can see it, so that when your brain, your inner child starts going, oh, but it wasn't that bad, minimizing, right? You can go, au contraire, hold on a moment. Let me read this list off. And then you remind yourself of what happened. That's another reason to write an angry letter. What did they do to you? How did they stump you? How did they keep you from growing? How did they harm you? Guilt. So remember, fear, obligation, guilt, fog. It's the fog that they put us into. Anyone who elicits, I've lost the power of speech. Anyone who elicits guilt in us, that's a toxic relationship. You know, if you've gone no contact, there's a reason you've gone no contact, you know? So remind yourself of what they've done, and then you post that sucker somewhere where you can see it so you can remind yourself. And anger is, how do I explain this? Anger is the bodyguard of the softer emotions, the hurt, the betrayal, the fear, the sadness. This is the bodyguard of the softer emotions. So allow yourself to access those emotions in regards to, how did they hurt you? How did they harm you? How did they betray you? How did they make you afraid? Does that make sense? So do that and stay no contact. There's a reason you went no contact. Stay no contact. Absolutely. Do you, any?
Yeah. And especially with, you know, this is what narcissists are great at, right? It's like when we're pulling away or we try to go no contact, or what are they going to do to try to get us back? They're going to put on their best self. They're going to put their best foot forward. And what that means is they already know, because they've done it in the past, they know how to get to you, right? It's all a game. So you want to think about, if you're going no contact and you hear from the narcissist, no matter what it is, if they're like praising you or whatever, you know, telling you everything you want to hear,
or playing the victim,
making you feel guilty, what you want to do is just, you know, remove yourself out of that. You want to think of the narcissist as they're fishing, right? They're throwing a line. And they're like, let's see, I bet she bites.
Right. And even if there's not any hoovering going on, if it's just in your head, that's when you want to write a goodbye letter to them and evict them. You know what? Mom, dad, brother, sister, cousins, aunts, uncles, whoever the abuser was, friends, family, boss, you know, and you're gone from them and they're gone from you. This is a goodbye letter. You did all of this. I am taking my power back. I am evicting you from my head. I am raising the rent with my own self-worth. You don't get to live up here rent-free one more second. Go pound sand. Thanks for playing. Bye-bye. Trot it out to the barbecue. Read it out loud once. Burn it. Because sometimes the Hoover is in our own head. So if that's the case, you've got to figure out, how old are you feeling when you want contact with them? Is it your inner child that's driving that? Is it the fear of being alone that's driving that? What's going on? Get with a good trauma therapist, work this through so that this cannot come back and bite you in the ass. Okay. I keep asking why. Why did they do this? Why don't they apologize? Why did this happen?
I'm going to save you so much trouble. You will never understand a narcissist because you're not a narcissist. Yes. You will never understand a serial killer or a child molester or Hitler. You will never understand how people can do the horrific things they do because you're not them. You're not like them. So you don't want to waste your energy trying to figure them out, because then you run the risk. If you try to figure them out, I did this. This is why I stayed so long in my marriage, is because we start rationalizing, because we think to ourselves, how could anybody be like this, right? Because to us, it's so foreign. It's like, how could somebody, for example, what I went through when I first left, how nobody would hurt their kids on purpose. Nobody would use their kids as tools to punish the other parent, right? So that disbelief made me rationalize what my ex was doing to our children. So when it comes to, you're not going to understand them because you're not a narcissist, which is good news.
Right. Or you'll become a psychologist. One of the two. So yeah, there is no why. There's a how. There's definitely always a how. How did this happen? But it's because of them, not because of you. So don't you ever start making it about you. Healthy, normal people do not seek to destroy other people. We just don't. We don't enjoy raging. We don't enjoy, staying up and keeping somebody awake and depriving them of sleep. We don't use food as a manipulation. We don't use children as a pawn. We don't, it's like they're doing it because they're sick. I can't swear, but you know what I'm saying in my head. So yeah, that's why they do that. And they don't apologize because narcissists are so weak. They cannot accept personal responsibility. A real person is able to go, shoot, I screwed up. That me, clean up on aisle 5. It's me. Let me make amends. How do I fix this? How can I make this right? And we try to make things right and move forward. A narcissist will twist it and make it your fault always. They never take responsibility for a damn thing they've done. And that's a coward's way out. That's a cowardly way to live. A real person takes personal responsibility. Here's my personal responsibility. Here's your personal responsibility. We never take responsibility for other people, but we do take responsibility for ourselves and our own actions. And they will never do that because it's an ego injury to them to admit that they're not perfect. I know. So, stop torturing yourself with why. Stop torturing yourself with why. There's how, there's where, there's when, but there's never going to be an answer to why, because it lives in their sick and twisted head. So, and you can't fix that because you didn't break them. You did not break them. You cannot fix them. Not even the best psychologist on the face of the planet could fix them unless they wanted to be fixed. And none of them want to be fixed. So there you go. I hope that answered the question. Okay. What are some good, safe ways to develop emotional intimacy with someone when you do start dating? And at what point would you say it's safe to then move on to physical intimacy?
Well, I can speak just from my experience is that, there comes a point where you're like, am I ready to take this next step? Right. And make sure that you're not taking 5 steps. You're taking 1 step at a time. And even like I went into this 5th date, I wasn't 100% sure if I wanted to take that next step. I thought maybe not. I'm not sure, but I want to explore that. But because I had those boundaries in place and I know who I am and I wasn't desperate in any way, I didn't risk, going too far before and then regretting it. Right. So emotional intimacy, you want to think of it like any intimacy as far as this takes time. It takes time. And if you don't know if you're ready, you can, when you're going slow and steady, right? Slow and steady wins the race.
Yep.
You won't risk becoming emotionally invested. For example, in the past, like I said, I would have taken that step that I wasn't ready to take. And then I would have regretted it later on, right? I would have beat myself up for doing that. So we don't want to put ourselves in that way of danger, as long as you have those everything in place to protect you.
Right. So oftentimes when I tell somebody that, you have to wait a year to date, you should see the look on their face.
Oh, I know.
They're like, what? No, I need to be dating now. And that's when I'm
No.
like, that tells me you are not ready,
Yeah.
So basically, emotional intimacy, like Susanna said, takes time. Let me give you a great example. John and I met back in 1989, okay? And we dated platonically for like 2 years before we even started even thinking about having a romantic relationship. And then when we did have a romantic relationship, I remember he kissed me and I freaked out because I wasn't ready, because I was like, holy crap, but you're nice and sane and normal. What the hell? And I remember telling him, I want to date other people. He's like, okay, totally patient. This man, patience of a saint, which is so funny because I said I wanted to date other people and I never did. So, and we got together and it just was that from then on. So, but we took our time. We took 2 years dating platonically. And then he asked me to marry him 2 years later. And then we waited another 2 years before we actually got married because we just were in not a rush. We wanted to make sure that this was a forever thing, So I think the biggest clue that it's not a healthy relationship is when they're like 3 dates in, they want you to be, sexual with them, or they're wanting you to share all of your intimate details, and trust me, just like Susanna said, they're going to turn around and use it against you. Yeah. So real intimacy takes time. It does. It takes time. Take your time. And if somebody's pushing, ooh, that's a red flag. Yeah. That's a red flag. John was patient and willing for me to come to him and say, okay, I'm ready, So I think it was actually 3 weeks later after he kissed me is when we actually got sexual. So we went to go see Dracula. It was so funny. So we saw Dracula with Johnny Depp or no, not Johnny Depp. Was it Johnny Depp? No, Keanu Reeves. And we came back and, he kissed me and I freaked out. And then 3 weeks later, it was Thanksgiving and he went home and then he came back and I couldn't wait for him to come back. And then we started, because we knew. Yeah. We knew. We just knew, So take your time. It does take time. And you've got to be sure because you don't want to do something that you're going to regret, So, and remember, your body is sacred. It does not belong to anybody else. It belongs to you. Yeah. So just because somebody wants into that temple, you don't have to let them. So I'm just saying. So yeah, so there's that.
Yeah, and somebody just brought up the trust. Is that this was such a life-changing lesson for me to learn because I used to believe that whoever created that line of, oh, I'll trust somebody until they give me a reason not to trust them. That is the worst. That's so backwards and so opposite. Yep. Why would trust is a jewel. Mm-hmm. It's a gift, right? It is special. Mm-hmm. So why would I give that to a stranger or somebody I don't know and say, oh, here, you can have my trust until you prove to me otherwise that I can trust you. No, that's totally backwards. Right. And when you're learning to whether or not you can trust the person, you go do fun things together and see how they react. So for example, I remember one time dating in LA, something happened and it didn't go the way that the narcissist wanted it to go. Like traffic jam, or they couldn't get the tickets that they wanted. And they had an absolute meltdown. And I'm sitting here going, yeah, no, that's, when stuff doesn't go your way, you punt and you figure out a different way and you do not allow it to ruin the night or ruin the day. Also, watch how they treat waiters. Yes, I was just going to say that. Yeah. Yeah. Just going to say that. Watch how they treat the wait staff. I mean, if somebody is snapping their finger at people and ordering them around and not treating them with respect. Oh, well, here's the thing. Narcissists don't treat people that can do nothing for them. Boy, that was a really convoluted sentence. With respect. So in other words, if a person can do something for them, they'll be respectful. But they don't see that a waiter is doing something for them. They just, because it doesn't, So they will treat wait staff terrible, or opposite side, they'll treat the wait staff super great, trying to over impress, So again, trust your gut, listen to your gut. Okay. So developing intimacy takes time. Do fun things. Notice how they respond when things don't go the way you wanted them to. So, I mean, that's the funny thing. It's like every time John and I go on a trip, inevitably something goes south, And what we do is we just go, oh, it's an adventure.
and we just find another way, or we don't do what we were going to do and we do something else, or, and that's really the attitude you're looking for, is somebody who looks at it as an adventure and can still keep the day fun and happy and light, as opposed to somebody who starts raging and throwing a fit and throwing things and blah, 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 that incorrect response. Thanks for playing, voting you off the island. Bye-bye. So there's
and
that.
This doesn't even mean that somebody has to be perfect.
Right. No.
That or that they might make a mistake or something. But if you know exactly what your boundaries are, and you know what you will and will not put up with, then you don't run the risk of collecting red flags and going on a second date or any type of relationship. You just have a deal breaker.
Right.
So, for example, when I look back, I have said this many times. One time I made you spit out your water when I said it, that I collected so many red flags I could supply a communist parade.
Good thing I wasn't drinking.
But one of those was how my, how my ex, when I first started dating him, treated waiters, both men and women.
Mm-hmm.
And for our first dinner date, guess where he took me?
I'm afraid to ask.
Hooters.
What?
Yes.
Oh.
Nowadays, this would be like, no, I
Yeah.
don't think, no, that's a
full
deal
stop.
breaker.
Yeah.
But I remember I'm like ordering wings from breasts at Hooters, and I'm like,
Yeah, no. Mm-mm. Yeah, do be aware of where they take you. I'm not saying it needs to be like expensive. It doesn't. In fact, that could also be a red flag. If they're continually taking you to these incredibly expensive things, but they're not doing the intimate things, like going for walks in the park or playing miniature golf or going ice skating or, fun little things where you can talk and have conversation and things like that. So a lot of times narcissists try to avoid having conversations. So they'll do a lot of movies, or they'll do, like I said, super expensive, trying to impress, that kind of thing. It's the little things in life, guys, that makes life worth living. So are they willing to settle for that, or is it beneath them? That's another attitude to watch out for. If they're like, oh, yeah, that's beneath me, I'm not going to do that. That's so plebeian, I'm not going to do. I've actually heard people say that. Yeah, I'm just like, really? What planet are you from? Oh, planet narcissist. Okay. Life is, like I said, it's a buffet. It is to be enjoyed. It is to be sampled. Little bits everywhere. And if you find something you like, stick with it. It just, yeah. So there that is. All right.
That was one of the things that 5-Date Jude brought up when he was all the insults, was that he had spent money on dinner.
Oh, therefore you owed him sex.
Therefore I owed him.
Yeah. That's another one. Sorry. Thanks for playing. Bye-bye. Why do narcissists fake illness to seek sympathy from the very people they belittle and taunt on a daily basis? Because they're crazy. There's really, seriously, if you're looking for logic when it comes to a narcissist, you're never going to find it. Not on this or any other planet. Sorry. Because they're crazy. Because their ego needs narcissistic supply, and they will get it from the very people that they are taunting and belittling, because they're crazy. They're cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Anything else? Did that pretty much cover it?
Oh, no. Yeah. I was just thinking back to all the years of, oh my God. Yeah. So much confusion when you're on the other side of that. Because you're like, wait, but you just said this and now this and what? The fog.
Yeah, exactly. All right. I think this is going to be our last question. Is it okay to hug or hold hands way before having sex? Yes, I think so.
I did.
Yeah.
I did with 5-Date Guy.
Yeah,
we
John and I
held hands.
John and I held hands and hugged all the time. Yeah. How is this spontaneous human contact supposed to be interpreted by the other person? Well, honestly, it's kind of like, it's like little kids. Do you remember when we were little kids? We would hold hands with everybody, girlfriends, guys, teachers, whatever, because that's what we do as kids, because we need human interaction and contact. So really what you got to do nowadays is you kind of have to ask, is it okay to hold your hand? Is it okay to hug you? Is it okay? Because again, in this society, because there's so many narcissists out there that don't respect boundaries, or may misinterpret, a friendly, loving gesture. Yeah, it's okay to hold hands, but I would definitely ask permission first. And as far as hugging is concerned, again, ask permission first. And if they start taking it in a way that you don't want it to go, oh, Andrea, hi, bunny. Happy birthday, by the way. And thank you. if it starts going in a way that you don't want it to go, you've got to speak up. And that's why having solid self-esteem and the ability to use your voice is going to be hugely important for you in dating. So let's say that they take it the wrong way. Let's say that they've decided that, oh, this means you're ready to, bow, chicka, wow, wow, and you're not, right? So you need to say, hey, I just like to hold hands, or I just like to hug. I'm just seeing if the chemistry's there. That's all it means right now. And if they get angry over that, again, you just laid a boundary. If they get angry over that, that's your red flag. Peace out. So, yeah. Anything else? No?
That's it.
Okay, cool. All right, kids, I think that will be our last question. Susanna, thank you so much, as always.
Thank you.
I adore you.
I did want to, I think he was going to put in a link for my article about how to protect yourself from narcissists in the dating world.
Okay. Yeah. So I'll make sure that John puts that in. So you guys, basically, to summarize, you've got to trust your gut. You got to have good self-esteem. You got to be doing it not out of desperation. You've got to be doing it because you have learned how to listen to your gut, and now you're ready to kind of dip your toe back into dating. Recognize that the internet is filled with predators, male and female, guys. It's not just narcissism, not just for men anymore. Seriously, it's like women and men can be disordered, and they are on the internet. So please, please, please be aware of that. Trust your gut. Have your boundaries. Have a list of deal breakers. What will you not put up with? And the second any of them cross over it, be done. All right, my loves, I think that is it for this week. Also, I wanted to let you know, this background is probably going to be gone for the next 3 weeks because we are remodeling the house. So we have to have everything off the walls and off the floor. Yay. So I'll be against a plain white background. So don't freak out if you see next week's video and you're like, what? So next week, I would like to talk about misdiagnoses. And so how PTSD can seem like a mental health, well, it is a mental health disorder, but I mean, it can seem like a personality disorder. So I want to talk about CPTSD, PTSD, borderline personality disorder, narcissistic personality disorder. I also want to talk about how world events can cause PTSD and how come I've noticed that people are incredibly short-tempered and really impatient. And I think a lot of people are suffering from PTSD and don't even realize it because of the pandemic. So we're going to be talking about all that. All right, my loves, have a great week. And I will find my cursor. Thank you to Susanna Quintana at SusannaQuintana.com. And thank you to my sponsor, BetterHelp, BetterHelp.com/Chris Godinez. Thanks, guys. Bye.